Did there come a time when your brother and Ms. Heard started to live together?
Yes.
And when did that occur approximately, if you recall?
I don't recall the timing. I don't recall the time frame. I believe they had moved downtown to the Eastern Columbia building, but I don't remember exactly when that was.
What type of structure was the Eastern Columbia building? Was that a freestanding house or was it apartments?
It's apartments, and he had the penthouses on the top floor.
How many penthouses did your brother own on the top floor of the Eastern Columbia building?
I think it was 5 apartments.
Do you know who lived in those 5 apartments when your brother and Miss Heard went to live there?
I know who lived down there. I know Isaac, a friend of Johnny's named Isaac, lived down there. I know Amber's friend Rocky and her boyfriend lived in one of the penthouses. Amber's sister Whitney lived in one of the penthouses.
When you say Rocky, are you referring to Rocky Pennington?
Yes.
And was her boyfriend Josh Drew?
Josh Drew.
Did Rocky Pennington and Josh Drew pay any rent to your brother?
No.
What about Miss Heard's sister Whitney? Did she pay any rent to your brother?
No.
Do you know why your brother allowed them to live rent-free at the ECB?
Because they were.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Foundation, we asked, do you know why? So if she knows, she can answer. I'll allow it all over.
She was his personal manager.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Did you arrange for handling a lot of your brother's bills?
I would give them to the business manager.
Yeah.
But I believe they were Amber's family and friends. That's why he let them live there.
How often did you see your brother when he was living with Miss Heard at the ECB penthouses?
We didn't see him as often. I didn't see him as often. He pretty much stayed down there. He didn't come back, towards where we were in West Hollywood very often unless he had a reason to.
And on those occasions when you did see your brother, what observations did you make?
He was always in a hurry when he was able to come back. He could never sit and spend the time. It felt like he was always trying to, get back downtown. He just seemed so much sadder. He did not seem himself. He was always his person was much just sadder.
In that time period when your brother and Miss Heard were living at the ECB, did you have occasion to observe them together?
On occasion.
Would you please describe for the jury what you observed on those occasions when you saw your brother and Miss Heard together?
Different occasions. I've seen them together when they've come into the office. In
your capacity as Johnny's personal manager, do you know whether your brother and Amber ever traveled together?
Yes, they did travel together. There were, there were times when, when Johnny had to go do press or film, they traveled together.
What type of travel arrangements did you make for the two of them when they traveled together?
We would get a private plane that took them to whatever the destination was, and make sure that we had, the hotel accommodations taken care of. Part of what we did was to always make sure that we anticipated, everything. So we would do the travel, the hotels, cars, drivers. I would make sure that there was an extra hotel room, for trips when they would go.
Why did you make sure there was an extra hotel room when Johnny and Miss Heard went on trips together?
Because they're...
Objection to the extent that the answer.
All right.
I don't believe it does.
Okay, that's fine. You can answer, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. I booked the extra hotel rooms because if Johnny was at home or, anywhere like that, he was able to, if they argued, he was able to leave the room, leave the argument, and go like he's always done and hide in a different room to get away from it. When they were traveling for, the different reasons for press or whatever, and we booked the hotel rooms, I wanted to make sure that there was an extra room, because it wasn't unusual, for them to have an argument. So I wanted to make sure that there was an extra room.
Did
for
your
him to
brother
have.
ever have occasion to use that extra room that you booked for him?
Yes.
Objection, foundation.
All right.
Calls for your
I'll
second.
sustain his foundation if you want to lay a foundation.
I think the foundation was she made all of the travel. Well, I can actually lay it through some
Okay.
other questions as
Okay.
well. She was personal manager. Whose idea was it to book an extra room for your brother when he traveled?
It was my idea because, I saw a repeat happening in life when we were kids and arguments and fighting would start to happen. Our first thing was to go and hide and, get away from it. And since I recognized what felt to be a pattern that was a repeat pattern from his childhood, I wanted to make sure that there was a place that he could do just that.
Did you book your brother's hotel accommodations during the 14 years when he was with Vanessa Paradis?
Yes.
Did you ever book an extra room when he was with her?
Objection leading.
No.
Overall, I'll allow that one. Go ahead.
If you could repeat it, I don't think the jury heard that.
I'm sorry. No, I did not.
Did you ever hear your brother and Miss Heard argue?
Objection calls for hearsay.
No.
Did you ever see or hear any physical altercation between your brother and Miss Heard?
No.
What can you tell us about what you did observe of your brother and Miss Heard together?
When I saw them, to me, he was always trying to make her happy. He always made effort to sort of make her happy. She has a very strong personality, and my brother's personality came off much more soft at that point to me.
Did you observe any occasions in which Miss Heard was nice to your brother?
I've seen her be nice in offering to, bring him a drink or, get him whatever. I mean, just a typical nice. I've seen that.
Have you witnessed any occasions on which Miss Heard wasn't nice to your brother?
I have.
Would
I
you
have.
please describe those to the jury?
Yeah. This one really stayed with me. On one occasion, I was at the office and I'd had a meeting with Dior, who had wanted to sit with Johnny and talk about, working together. And Amber had come in and asked if she was interrupting us, and we said no. And we weren't supposed to really talk about the meeting with anyone, but Johnny told Amber that I had just had a meeting with Dior and that, they were interested in him. Her reaction to that was she was in disbelief and sort of disgust because she said, Dior, why would Dior want to do business with you? They're about class and they're about style, and you don't have style. So it was the insulting kind of taking away that one moment, that insult is there. I've seen the insults multiple times, actually.
What, if anything, did you hear Miss Heard say about Mr. Depp's physical appearance?
She called him an old fat man.
How did he respond?
I believe he's heard her call him that himself.